Hello everybody, my name is Keith Klein, if you didn't know that already. I'm going to talk about retrograde motion today, which is an astronomical term used to define the apparent motion of objects such as planets and comets in the sky. So we experience retrograde motion when we pass like Mars, because we orbit the Earth, we orbit the sun faster than Mars does. So we would catch up to Mars and pass Mars. So if you were a bystander on Earth, doesn't matter your latitude, unless, we're talking about the northern hemisphere. So I'm just gonna, we're in the northern hemisphere here. So I'm gonna go from clear paper to loose leaf paper because I only got 2 sheets of printer's paper. So if you're standing or jumping, as it seems, on the northern hemisphere of planet Earth, you're gonna see Mars. So Mars is out in the morning, so this isn't really a good example. So Mars is let's just say Mars would be like right here. So Mars would be here at like the start of, let's say, June. So June, let's say June 10th. June 10th is, Mars will be right there in the sky. The next night, Mars will continue to move. It would actually be the other way around. So Mars would continue to move westward across the sky, going from east to west or west to east. It would actually be west to east. So it would be going from north, east, south, and west. So here we have north, east, south, and west. So your compass directions. So Mars would be going from west to east in complement to the stars. So Mars would continue its path throughout the month of June into July, maybe August. So there's Mars. So Mars, as we catch up to Mars, so I'm going to do this on a piece of loose leaf. So as we're going towards Mars in our orbit, so the sun I'm going to put right here. This is the sun. This is not to scale. This is just a demonstration. So here's the sun, Mercury, Venus, and then Earth. I'm going to make Earth big for this demonstration. So you can't really see that because it's too small here for you. So let me just move that closer to you. So we have the sun. Mercury, and Venus. So the Earth, as I said, this is not the scale, so the sun would be more like that big if this is still not to scale, but here's Earth. So Earth, I'm gonna label E. So Earth, as we orbit the sun, we go that way, so we go like that. So the Earth, and here's Mars, so we can put Mars like right there. We'll label that M for Mars. So as we orbit Earth, as we orbit the sun, as Earth orbits the sun, we catch up to Mars because Mars has a slower orbit because it's a longer orbit. So Earth would orbit the sun and it would catch up to Mars. So in our other demonstration, if I can get this to stand, in our other demonstration, which is here, as we catch up to Mars, as Earth catches up to Mars in its orbit, the position of Mars in the sky is going to change. So instead of going from west to east, it'll start to change and it'll go from east to west as we pass it. So during the nighttime, obviously, because the sun is shining its light that side of the Earth, so we would see it like that, and then as we would get further away from Mars, as we pass it, we'd see it change. So from over here, we'd see Mars from like at a very elliptic angle, a very high angle in the sky. As we get closer, it would be more like towards the moon and some of the zodiac constellations. I just saw it today. I was in Taurus on my way to school. That's pretty cool. And I also saw Orion. This is the first time I saw Orion. It was pretty cool. But when we get to about here, we caught up to Mars, and it would take a couple of days. This is over the course of weeks and months. But as we caught up to Mars, our view of Mars would change. So it would go back to it's this long, high angle in the sky, just like the moon on days like the eclipses. So like the lunar eclipse, the moon would be full. It would be a new moon, and then the Earth's shadow would block the moon. It would be a full moon, and then the Earth's shadow would block the moon and turn it into a blood moon. But as the Earth orbits Mars, or as the Earth passes Mars, Mars is also orbiting, but at a very much slower rate. So it would change as Earth orbits the sun and passes Mars. So we would see kind of like a zigzag shape on Earth until we finally passed Mars, and then it would equal out and become kind of like a Z in the sky. And then as we like orbit around the sun again, Mars would be out of view for however long Mars would be on the other side of the sun for, because you can't see past the sun. But we also see this with Venus. So if I just get another piece of paper, we also see this with Venus. But it is not much different, despite, because we do pass Venus because it has a much shorter orbital distance. So here's Mercury again, the sun, Mercury, and then I'm gonna make Venus big this time. So Venus, label that V. So as Venus is orbiting, Venus has a much lower and much shorter orbital period than Earth does, about 180 Earth days, and here's Earth coming in. So they would pass us first. So Venus would pass us first, and as that's happening, it would look the same as Mars. It would look like a big Z in the sky. It would go from west to east, and then it would change to east to west, and then finish out the retrograde motion. And to really hit the nail on the head here, we're gonna talk about kind of like the history. So one of my favorite ancient astronomers, I think his name was Starkas, if I just find the notes here from my astronomy class, it would be like, we just find it. It was, give me 1 second here, I'm sorry. It would be, I forgot his name. This is not that, this is, just learned about him like Monday. Modern science, Isaac Newton. I'm way too far. Alright, maybe Tycho Brahe, okay. Ptolemy. Yeah, sure, we'll talk about Ptolemy. So Ptolemy is an ancient astronomer who believed heavily in the geocentric model. And so the geocentric model is the belief that the Earth is actually the center of the solar system, or at this point in the universe, and every other body orbited the Earth, including the stars. The stars is kind of like the celestial sphere. If you guys know what that is, it's like a sphere of, you could buy it on like Amazon or something. My astronomy teacher has it. It's this celestial sphere of all the stars, all the apparent locations in Earth's nighttime sky. So here's Earth, and then the moon would orbit Earth next. So they thought that the bigger the object is, the closer they are. So the moon would be next, and then the sun would be next. And they didn't know that the sun was actually as big as it is, because it would look about the same size as the moon as it does today, because it has the same angle of electricity, I would like to say. So, yeah, the moon is a fourth diameter of the Earth. That's not what I'm looking for. Okay. I swear we studied the sun. Milky Way, distances, crap, galaxies, okay, whatever. So they would believe that the moon was not as big, but they would think the sun would orbit the Earth next because it's closer, it looks bigger, and then they would go Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and at that point Uranus wasn't discovered, and neither was Neptune. So it would just be Earth, the moon, sun, Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. And in reality, there's 2 other planets there and 1 other dwarf planet, which is Pluto. So we have Neptune and Uranus that we're missing, and Pluto, which isn't a planet. So Earth, the moon, the sun would orbit the Earth here. So this is Ptolemy's model, but his model couldn't explain retrograde motion. So it was rejected until he came up with this hunk of junk. So Earth in the middle, and then we had the moon. So the moon would be right there, and then the sun right by it, and then their orbits would look like that in his model, like that. They would orbit the sun and moon, because we don't see the retrograde motion because we're not actually passing the sun or the moon, because the moon's orbiting the Earth every month or so, and the sun doesn't orbit the Earth. But the other planets, like Venus would be over here, Venus, and then it would have an orbit that looked kind of like this to explain the retrograde motion. And they would be orbiting orbiting like another central point of mass, which wouldn't actually be able to happen, but at this point we didn't really understand the concept of gravity. So it would have an orbit that looked kind of like that. And then after the finished model, it kind of looked like a big plate of spaghetti and meatballs, as my astronomy teacher put it. So it would be the same for Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. But if you could see, the sun and the moon don't actually have that retrograde motion. And it was believed back then that God made everything. And since God was perfect, all the orbits would be perfect, a perfect circle, and Earth would be a perfect sphere, and Earth would be the center of everything. So that would be like the main thing, and if you went against it, you would be jailed or killed, as Capricornicus or whatever his name is. Capricornicus was actually proposed the heliocentric model, which explained the retrograde motion, but it was terrible at actually pinpointing where each celestial object would be in the sky that next day. So the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and then Saturn. So it would state that Mercury would orbit the Sun, all the planets would orbit the Sun, and as we caught up to the planets, as I just explained, as we caught up to the planets, the planets would appear, if I can find the other model that I just had out, that the planets would make this Z shape in the sky. So as the planets were going west to east, they would curve like a Z here, and then curve back to its original path in the sky. But this model was revolutionary because it inspired people like Tycho Brahe to create his own model, which I'll look at in a later video if you want. So here's Earth, third planet from the Sun, and it is going through its normal orbital phase, and we didn't know the exact size of the universe, so we thought the stars were like in the solar system or in the atmosphere, and comets are in Earth's atmosphere, and you know, like we didn't know what Halley's Comet was. Like Halley's Comet would appear, and you know, we wouldn't know. So this is like a nutshell version of the heliocentric model that Copernicus came up with. And he was like a trendsetter. But yeah, that's pretty much the history and explanation of both heliocentrism, which I'll go over in a later video, and retrograde motion. So if you liked it and it helped you, thumbs it up. And if you want to see more astronomy videos, because I'm kind of a geek, you can comment it or email me or whatever. Because, I mean, I love this stuff. I love doing this. This is like what I want to do. So this is very nice that I get to share it with you guys. So if you liked it, smash the like button. If you want to see more, also hit the like button, and I'll go over Copernicus's model of heliocentrism, and how Tycho Brahe added upon his model when he was on house arrest, which Tycho Brahe had a pretty, wavy life. So if you want to hear about that, smash it. And I'll see you guys in the next astronomy video.